welcome to another episode of Gov Tech Today. I'm your host, Jen Seha. We aim to bridge .com and .gov here, and we've got another bridge in the room. I love it. Adam Silver is the chair of the California Fair Political Practices Commission. Adam, why don't you tell us what that even means?
Well, let's start by saying thank you so much, Jen, for having me. I'm so excited. A long-time listener,
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
I know, when my phone rang, I was like, oh, someone from the FPPC is calling me, and everyone will understand why that was a little terrifying at first once we sort of get into what you guys do.
I know. The first question they have whenever I call them is, am I in trouble?
Yes.
And almost all the time I'm going to tell them, no, you're fine. I just want to learn more about what you do. So what I do, I work at an agency called the California Fair Political Practices Commission, or FPPC. So we're the state's political and ethics watchdog. Specifically, we're charged with advising on and enforcing the state's ethics rules. So campaign finance, lobbying rules, conflicts of interest, those all fall under our jurisdiction. And believe it or not, we have the entire state that we have jurisdiction over. So our investigators, our prosecutors, as well as the attorneys and staff who give advice to candidates and those who participate in the political process, we're doing that for everybody.
So like local school board to governor.
Correct.
Okay.
All those people, one phone number, one email that they're calling to get advice. Some of these jurisdictions have local ethics agencies, but in general, we're the person who gets that phone call. So it's a pretty heavy burden. But a couple things about the FPPC, number one, a lot of people don't know this, but we've been a pioneer in terms of adopting emerging tech. We were one of the first agencies to have an app in the App Store. We also were an early adopter of Salesforce to make our enforcement operations more efficient. And right now we're laser focused on figuring out ways that we can integrate AI into our operations. And we want to use it to promote transparency, to bolster our enforcement efforts, and support our education efforts.
That's awesome. Really anyone who has served in government, especially at like an appointee level, knows you guys for, I have to file this form every single year called a Form 700. And it's, the legal office bugs you. Hey, you got to get your form turned in. I got to list everything I own, all of my information, all of my spouse's information. I'm still filling these out because I'm married to a government employee who fills one out. So that is probably most government employees, their experience with FPPC. Is that right?
That's correct. I feel like to a certain extent, we're the DMV for public officials, right? Because we're an agency that they have a lot of contact with. Mm-hmm. One-on-one. So for me, I think customer service is really critical in building our brand. And for the Form 700, just so people who are listening have a better understanding of what that is. So that's a document where public officials who are involved in decision making, they have to disclose all their economic interests. So they own stock in Exxon or Meta, they have a source of income, their spouse has a source of income, those sorts of things. They have to disclose that because they're precluded from participating in decisions that could have a reasonably foreseeable material financial impact on one of those economic interests. So Meta, for example, in the case where someone has that holding in stock.
Totally.
That's really complicated.
So I'm not, as a government official, I'm not, invested in Meta and then awarding them $1 billion contract as a part of my duties as a government official.
Exactly. That's much better to understand, much easier to understand.
Totally. And that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like it's something that most citizens can appreciate. It's also a huge pain in the butt. I haven't filled one out personally in a while, but where are we at? When I filled these out, it was a PDF. I literally, some people really did print and fill it in with, ink pen to get it over the finish line to the legal office. Is that still where we're at? Or what is the process today?
So that's a great question. It depends on what type of public official you are. So we were lucky enough to partner with Assemblymember Avelino Valencia last session to get AB 1170 passed. And what AB 1170 did is it requires that all high-level officials, known as 87200 filers, so you're talking, elected state assembly members, any really elected in the state of California, as well as other high-level non-electeds, they're going to have to file electronically directly with us. And that's great for so many reasons. One, it saves us tons of resources. When you fill it out by hand, we have to scan that, upload it, all sorts of things. This goes straight into our system. So the answer to your question is there's a lot more e-filing now than there used to be, and it's exclusively e-filing for the top officials in the state of California. So the people, they're able to get access to that economic interest data basically as soon as possible.
So you hit on something that I feel like is key to so much of what government is good at, but also what government is challenged by, and that's the data. And you guys have some that is sometimes headline making, right? For good or for bad for these political candidates and appointees throughout government. So tell me what you guys are doing with all of that data, and sort of, you mentioned it, but you really are doing some awesome stuff, which is why you're here today. Tell me how you guys are using that.
That's a great question. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're talking about the data that we have. So one thing that I'm very aware of is the impact, like you said, that some of that data can have practically on the filers of our agency, on electeds, on just regular run-of-the-mill state employees, right? And we consider that. We want to keep that in context whenever we can, right? Just having stock in Meta or some other company does not mean you're a bad person.
Yeah.
We want to be very clear about that. As far as what sort of advantages I see with all that data is, unlike some other agencies, we have tons of data that is public, does not need to, you don't have to worry about confidentiality, really security in a lot of ways, because this is all public data that we want the public to be aware of. So that makes us a really attractive partner for different companies and entities that want to work with us on transparency tools and efficiency tools. We're actually working with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo right now to create an AI advice agent. And they're using, to develop that advice agent, our manuals, our lobbying manuals specifically. So we're training a small language model, I should say they're training a small language model based on our manuals. And then that's going to be an efficiency tool used by our staff as they process questions that come into the FPPC, so they can get those out quicker and more accurately.
I imagine that's a huge advantage for really everyone involved. Your staff side, they're fielding questions from all of these people. Wouldn't it be great if they didn't have to field so many questions that someone could just look up? And then, I mean, from a filer side, I can tell you right now, everyone at some point is like, man, I guess I should call them and walk through this and see if I'm navigating this correctly. So that's awesome. And, I think AI, as the chat bot, the front end, let's automate our processes, our manuals. There's so much opportunity for that in government. And I love to see what you guys are doing with it. Tell me about some other ways you guys are using AI.
So we're considering it really all over the agency. AI is changing, AI's capability and the way that it can be harnessed by government is changing so quickly that you just constantly have to keep using all these different tools and consider different use cases. I think where it has a lot of potential is enforcement, right? So we have limited resources. It's just the nature of our agency. Everybody knows that. And we need to make sure that our investigators and our prosecutors are as efficient as possible. I think timely resolution of enforcement cases is critical. So what we're considering is we have all this Form 700 data, right? And what you can do is you can use all that data to identify clear conflicts of interest, right? Where someone has a source of income in ExxonMobil and is voting on an item that specifically says ExxonMobil in it. Right. These are the sort of things that we want to make sure the public knows that we're looking out for, that there is somebody there who's looking at these things, because right now there's a decrease in the amount of focus on the local level because of the lack of local press there. And we feel like using AI to identify these sorts of conflicts of interest can be a great tool for us to fill that gap.
Well, and really just helping you to identify the risks of that too, right? You could probably even use AI to, you have all of these actions that you should look at. Which of these is the biggest risk to the state, to the public's interest? And so using AI to sort of help you navigate where that low-hanging fruit is versus Joe Smith just forgot to file his form. Like, he doesn't have an attorney on staff, it's late. So, like, we're going to focus on the big sort of moving the needle problems. I feel like AI would be super helpful for that.
I agree. And that's really where we're going as an agency. This isn't specifically on the topic of technology, but we really want to focus our resources on prosecuting the most serious violations of the ethics rules.
Yeah.
Right? So conflicts of interest, campaign money laundering, misuse of public resources for a campaign purpose. Those are the types of cases that we want to prosecute. And we've actually introduced a program called the PrEP program, which is kind of like a diversion program or a driving school, traffic school, basically. So you have a minor infraction. You forget to disclose a $60 gift and then go ahead and disclose it after you find out about it, but it's after the deadline. That's the sort of thing that you would go to this diversion program. You'd sit there, you'd watch the video for 2 hours, and then your case would be closed without the finding of a violation.
It's like traffic school for an ethics violation.
There you go.
I like it. Okay, that's awesome and a little bit heartwarming because I'm not a true criminal, but I may be forgetful from time to time. So tell me a little bit about, doing more with less. A lot of what you're saying is awesome. And I worry, though, as many in the public worry, like, are we replacing people's jobs? It doesn't sound to me like you have a bunch of people sitting around twiddling their thumbs, waiting for these kind of issues to come up. So how do you handle it from like a human resources perspective?
It's a great question. We're very deliberate about integrating any sort of new technology. So I think the first thing you do is just massive amounts of research and networking, talking to people like yourself, talking to the Department of Technology, GovOps, stakeholders. What are your users comfortable with? I think that's maybe something we didn't do as much in the past was user research. And we're doing tons of that right now. Myself, our communications director, Sherry Yang, we're going out and we're meeting with lobbyists and we're meeting with campaign consultants, candidates, public officials, filing officers, everybody to ask them what the FPPC does well, what we don't do as well, how we can improve. And then we pitch them with different IT-related projects that we're interested in pursuing and ask them, would you use this? Because if everybody if our target audience says, no, we don't want to use that, that's awful, then why are we spending money and staff time on it? So, that's one thing we're doing. We're being really deliberate in how we develop our AI policies. We want to make it clear to staff and the public two things. One, we're doing trust but verify here, right? We think this technology is great, but we understand that it has potential drawbacks, and we're very aware of those. And it's never going to make a final decision. There's always going to be a human in the loop. Our expert staff is more knowledgeable, much better at making these decisions than a computer. So we want to make sure that our staff understands that, and we're utilizing this as an efficiency tool to make them more efficient, not at all replace them.
I think it's great. We filmed an episode that'll be coming out soon on change management and like what that means and what it means to your own internal employees. So they're probably the biggest stakeholder in any of these changes because it's like, we're going to fundamentally change how you do your jobs and we want you to be on board with that. So it's not even just the training or like, hey, we're going to hand you this new tool, but like, how does this change your entire job? How does it change the workflows? How does it change the approval processes? So like keeping the employee as sort of one of those main users in addition to, and I love that you go out to like politicians or lobbyists and say like, would you guys use this? Because you're right. Like I've seen so many times, government will spend all this time on something and we're like, great.
Right.
Like, I don't want to use that. That's great. It's great for you, for whoever designed it. But for us who have to use it, this doesn't work that well. So I love that you're really focused on sort of what the public wants and what your clients at the end of the day sort of demand from you.
And I could tell you from my experience with staff at our agency that they're really excited about the prospect of using emerging technology, including AI. That's really great. Got behind using Salesforce when we first adopted Salesforce in the enforcement division. So, they see it as a really helpful tool. They know that we have the entire state of California that we have jurisdiction over. They want help.
Yeah. You guys have a way bigger job than you are, frankly, funded or staffed to do. So using some of these tools just sort of gives you that advantage to even be able to try to keep up with everyone else. I mean, the other thing is like, the public should be sort of an ally in this. Like we talk about transparency and making all this data available, but like how many times has that sort of backfired? Not on you guys, because the data is the data. Like you're just putting out there what people give you. But man, like reporters, pundits, political adversaries. I mean, like you guys end up in the paper sometimes because someone digs into all that data. Like I feel like making data available and transparency is a bit of a double-edged sword in politics, in government, just in general.
Yeah, I think the key is that you have transparency, but more importantly, meaningful transparency, right? If you just throw all the data at the wall and see what sticks, I think the public's gonna be really confused as to what they're looking at, right?
Yeah.
For instance, there was a mailer that just went out not too long ago, and due to the disclaimer requirements for campaign mailings, it mentioned that you could find more information related to this item at the FPPC's website. So the public sees that and they thought, oh, well, the FPPC is somehow involved with this political campaign, and then people got really upset.
Yep.
So that's the sort of thing that you want to keep in mind. I think transparency is a key mission objective of our agency, but we want to make sure that people can get the information that's critical to them in a timely manner before they go into the ballot box, and they don't have to spend hours and hours researching and sifting through data.
I think AI will be very helpful there too, because you could put all that data into a LLM and have it answer questions in a way more concise and clear way than Joe Smith digging through these thousands of data points too.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about, you guys are kind of a unique beast in California government. You're a government entity, you're not really, you're independent,
Mm-hmm.
You should be. You don't have to follow all the same rules as everyone else. Are there other entities like you guys in other states? And you mentioned local government. Some of them have ethics sort of scenarios. But what else exists outside of California that is like you guys?
So for the most part, there's some sort of ethics or campaign finance agency in every one of the 50 states, right? And then in those states, there's local agencies as well, some more robust than others. So I think the New York City Campaign Finance Board has more resources than even we do for the entire state of California.
They might need it, though. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Big job over there.
Yeah, and so what we're doing to kind of leverage that is we're going to create a working group with some of these other agencies who work in our same area to share best practices, share specifically what tools they're using in terms of AI, what experience they have had, good and bad, so we can all grow together because we're all kind of learning about this at the same time.
Yeah, it's so smart, and I think it's something that states don't do enough. Like, I've worked nationally on certain issues, and the amount of questions that someone is asking me, and I'm like, go talk to Utah, go talk to California, go talk to New York. Like, they've figured this out. They all have, you have similar problems wherever you go as it relates to this kind of thing. So I think that kudos, first of all, to you. And just be ready to be like California. You're the 800-pound gorilla in that room, like no matter where you go, because you're California. And frankly, because you're doing stuff that I don't think many of these other guys have even considered doing yet with AI.
Agreed. I mean, some of them actually are very far in the process of integrating AI. So Montana, for example, they actually have a public-facing advice agent.
Awesome.
Where you can 24/7 submit questions and it'll provide you.
You're not that far behind that though. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. You could get there.
Well, one thing to consider for us, like I talked about, we're taking a very, deliberate, thoughtful approach. We have to consider the public trust in whatever programs that we adopt.
Yep.
Right? If we're providing poor advice, even if it's 1 out of 1,000, someone goes and violates the law based on the advice that we're giving, and then that comes out in the press, that hurts our overall mission. But if other jurisdictions feel comfortable doing those sorts of things because they have been able to achieve the sort of accuracy level they're comfortable with, I feel like we can look at their experience and learn from it as we're trying to get to a place that we can roll that sort of tool out.
So something else you kind of updated me on that I think is just genius. You are working with some university students and some different universities. Tell me a little bit about how, you've had some interns and you've had some people poking around on this. In fact, when I came to you, I was like, hey, I feel like I have a client that could help you out. And you were like, we have a university student building this AI out for us. And I'm like, that's so smart. Tell me sort of how that evolved in sort of your practice.
So when you're a small agency, you just don't obviously have the same sort of IT budget that other bigger agencies have. So you really have to get creative. And in the past, 10 years ago, I started a startup company that facilitated campaign fundraising, nonprofit fundraising on social media. And in order to get a business like that going, you just need to cold call tons of people, sit down with anybody who will talk to you, join all sorts of groups. So I'm used to that sort of approach. And that's how I think we've been successful in being able to get stakeholders to work with us. Mm-hmm. I think, like we talked about earlier, we have data that's very valuable to developers, programmers, especially grad students who want to create something that's cool.
Yep.
We're the FPPC, so that draws, based on the area that we work in, that draws some attention. So there's some notoriety to these types of tools that people are creating. So I think like I said earlier, I think we're an attractive partner for entities and schools who are looking to do tech projects.
And like with open arms, embracing that, because a lot of this awesome technology is coming out of those exact institutions around the United States. It's kind of heartening in respect to the state has all these proof of concepts going, the AI POCs mm-hmm. and AI RFI squareds. Are you guys tracking what's going on in the rest of state government with AI? And how are you working with those departments and agencies that, while very different, are still sort of poking holes in some of the technologies that are out there?
We are, and they've, Department of Technology, GovOps, Governor's Office, they've been incredible partners for us. I think the most important thing, if I had to go back, if I had to tell myself something on my first day, what I would tell myself to help navigate this process, you just need to be proactive. You don't get a syllabus or a reading list on your first day as the head of a state agency to help navigate this process. You need to reach out to people, meet with them, ask them what to do. You need to go watch the hearings that are 4 hours at the Little Hoover Commission and learn who the players are.
Well, now you can just drop them in AI and just have it spit out a summary for you. So you don't have to spend all 4 hours, right?
Never mind. That's a really good idea. I'll go with that. But yeah. That's
awesome. Well, thank you so much. Keep on keeping on. You're doing the people's work, and it's very much appreciated. I think sort of the mission that you have in government is very unique, but it's also one that I think everyone can sort of get behind and is very visible, especially in people who have worked in politics at all. So loved having you. Keep on listening. We appreciate you. And we'll have you back when some of this stuff launches and you're running the entire regulatory world for the United States.
Well, we'll see. Well, thanks so much for having me. I just want to tell you right back at you, I think you're an amazing resource for all these vendors who are trying to navigate the complicated landscape in California.
Well, thank you.